Good morning, game makers. Today we're going to add a power up and hopefully use a new command or a new instruction that I'm not really familiar with, known as switch. And we're gonna either expand the size of our bat, making it wider, or we're gonna slow the ball down to its start speed. Both things that would be an advantage to the player. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a sprite. I'm gonna hopefully not agonize over how it looks. And so the width is going to stay 64. The height will be 32, and it's just going to be some arrows that point out when we're going to expand the size of our bat, and arrows that point down when we're going to affect our ball. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a name, SPR power up, and edit. And let's see, I'm going to do some outward facing arrows. I'm going to use the line tool, and so arrow one, it's going to look like this. And I'm going to hopefully use a feature of Game Maker 2 that'll make this go pretty fast. I'm going to say, okay, that's a pretty good fill color. And I'm going to go ahead and select it, and I'm going to copy it. So I'm going to go Control C. But if I do that, you can see it's facing the same direction, and I want it to face it out. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the mirror brush, and that's going to actually create a mirrored image. And well, that's going to look pretty good for frame one. And so frame zero, because computers start counting at zero. Let me just make sure we're recording here. We are. So I'm going to go ahead and create a second frame. And this one, I want the arrow to point down. But, so I'm going to go ahead and choose on the rotate brush tool. And that's going to let me rotate, but I want to choose, get it just right so it's not appearing blurry. Come on. Perfect. And then I'm going to hit enter, and that's going to allow me to use this as a brush. And I'm going to do, it's a little wide for this, but that's okay. Down and down. Okay, so there's my two sprites. One that represents what is going to increase the size of my bat, one that's going to affect the speed of the ball. So I'm going to go over here, create a new object, call it OBJ power up, and give it a sprite. I don't want image speed to control its animation, because there's actually some funny thing where when image speed is running and animating your sprite, the in between frames, it actually gives the value of your image index of a float. So it'd be like 1.94 or 3.58, and that's not going to work for what I'm going to do here. I'm going to actually use an alarm to control the animation, and it's going to uh, change the sprite every 15 frames. So that's going to happen. My power up is going to have a direction of down, so 270. It's going to have a very slow speed of 0.01 that will speed up as it drops. And motion set is what will put it in motion. And you can see down here at the bottom, excuse me, motion set has two things it needs. It needs to know the direction, and it needs to know the speed. So all of that should work for that. I'm going to go ahead and create the alarm zero. And if image index equals zero, so it's on frame zero, so equals zero, then image index is going to equal one. Otherwise, when this alarm fires, it's going to change image index, else image index equals zero, and then reset the alarm. So that should work brilliantly to animate, and only the image index can only equal zero or only equal one. So step, the first thing in the step is we're going to find out if we're at the bottom of the screen, and if so, destroy ourselves. If y is greater than room height plus 16, because it's only 32 pixels tall, but um, I did not center that sprite. So that wouldn't work very well. Middle center. All right, back to the object. So if that's true, instance destroy, and then it's going to speed up. So speed is going to plus equal zero point zero 0.01 every frame. That may not, we may change that later, but for now that's going to work. And then it's going to check to see if there is a collision. Now I could do this in a collision event, but just because I want to see it all in one place, I'm going to go ahead and do it in the step. So if place meeting at X, Y with the bat, then we're going to do these things. And now I'm going to use a technique that I'm not overly familiar with. And that's using something called a switch. And what the switch is going to do is the switch is going to check the status of whatever's in these parentheses. In this case, I want to know which frame it's on or which image, what the image index is. And then it's going to do things based on if it's on frame 0 or if it's on frame 1, and it's going to do things based on that. Actually, if I remember correctly, I need to do these in have a begin of block, end of block brackets, just like an if statement there. But there are some differences. Now, one of the differences is that when I'm done giving these instructions, I need to say break. Break means, okay, that's the end of the things you do in this case. And then that will prevent, if you don't have the break there, it'll continue to run all of the other commands. So what I want to do is I want this, if the image index is 0, I want it to affect the bat. So with, whoops, let's say I hit it with my hand. So with object bat, do these things. And the first thing I'm going to do is check to see if the bat's already expanded using image X scale. Image X scale is the size that has been stretched horizontally. So if image X scale equals 1, so it hasn't been expanded yet, image X scale equals 1.5, which will basically mean it's 150%. And and we're going to set an alarm, which doesn't exist yet. It may because I've done a practice version, but it shouldn't. The alarm is going to be set for room speed times 5. So the actual increase in size is going to last um, for 5 seconds. And then when all of that is done, because I'm done with everything that involves the case where image index is 0, I need to say break. Okay, so then it's going to look at case 1. And in case 1, it's going to be a little bit simpler with object ball. We're just going to set the speed to start speed. And I really like that when you say with object ball or with object bat, all of the variables associated with that come up. And then because that's the end of the things I want to have happen, when this case happens, I'm going to say break. And now I am going to look at the bat. I do believe I have an alarm there from a practice run. And you can see alarm 1 just sets the image X scale back to 100%. So here's what's going to happen. The power up is going to speed up, and if it's going to check the image index. If the image index is 0, it's going to do these things. If image index is 1, it's going to do these things. And the last thing I want to have happen, no matter what, is that the power up will be destroyed. Now, I don't have anything to spawn these in the room yet, so I'm going to go ahead to the basic block, and before it's destroyed, I'm going to go ahead and randomize, and then I'm going to create a variable that only needs to exist for this action. So I'm going to use VAR to say you can forget this as soon as we're done. Chance equals I random, and I'm going to say 5. And if chance is, let's see, how often do I want this to happen? I'm going to say if chance is less than 2 for now. So that gives it, no, less than 1. So that, no, 2. So that means if chance is 0 or 1, then it's going to create image instance create layer at x plus. Now I didn't center my basic bricks, so that's why I have to say x plus 32, y plus 16, because the top left is still its origin on the instances layer, an object power up. And so that may be everything. So we're going to get a random chance of, so basically a 2 out of 6 chance, or what's that? A third of the time? I'm really bad at math, guys. Sorry. So let's see what happens here. Let's see if we can create a power up, and let's see if we have any bugs. Now, I don't have a ball in the room. That's interesting. Um, why would that be? I don't think I changed anything in the ball, and it's there. I think I changed the ball because I was going to do something earlier. Um, let me pause the video and then I'll be right back. Oh, I did a draw event here. Whenever you do a draw event, if you want something to appear, you have to say draw self, and the draw event is there just for some bug bug fixing. Um, and that's what was causing the problem. So the ball was there, we just couldn't see it because it didn't know it was supposed to draw itself. All right, so let's see. Let's see if we can create some power-ups, and let's see if we can get some different results. So here comes a power-up. It's animating much faster than I'd like. In that case, it should have set the ball back to its normal speed. And it seems like there's an issue there. And I'm not sure why, because in my test runs and my practices, it has worked. So I'm not getting it. Interesting. All right, got to pause again. This has not been my best video. I'm sorry. All right, another bug. I did not tell it not to animate. So image speed equals 0. And then that way it's that's why it wasn't giving me any results, because chances are image index was never equal to exactly 0, or never equal to exactly 1, because image speed, like I said, in between frames gives it a decimal value, so it's 1.38 in between frames 1 and 2, and so that wasn't going to work, and that's why it was being all crazy. So let's try one more time. You'll also notice I got the other blocks out of my room, just to eliminate other things that could interfere with us testing the function. So that looks better. Now let's see if we can get a, okay, in both cases, those should randomly have simply slowed the ball down to its original speed. Let's see if we can get one that will increase the size of our bat, though, and then see if we have any bugs that are involved there. Okay, so no power ups. The ball does speed up every time you hit it with a paddle, so that power up later on when you're in a bigger room. Ah, beautiful. Now we have the bigger paddle. That should go away in 5 seconds. It does. And everything seems to be working. So let's do that one more time. And I lost the ball. But so we have a power up. And our power up does two things depending on the image index it is when there's a collision with the bat. If it's frame 0, it increases the size of the bat for 5 seconds, and if it's on frame 1, it slows the ball down to the start speed. So, woo, lots of things. If you have questions about what we did today, please go ahead and ask them in classroom so that I can answer those for you. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Will be a video on Thursday and a quiz on Friday.